Hey booktube! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is the Book Mage, and I think I'm starting a tag. I don't know if booktube still does tags, but we're obviously deep in the spooky season of Halloween, and wouldn't you know it, vampires are finally making a comeback. They weren't dead, they were just resting. So I guess I'm gonna start a vampire tag, or a book vampire tag, or like a literary vampire tag. I'll figure it out. I think I'm the first person to do this, but vampires are popular, especially around this time of year, so if I'm not the first, then please feel free to correct me in the comments, and I'll leave some credits in the description. And I wrote these questions months ago, and I actually had a hard time coming up with answers to my own questions, so I'm not sure that's a good start, but either way, let's get into the questions. I feel really awkward doing my own tag. So question 1, Sire, your favourite book about vampires? And I feel like obviously for me this is going to be Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. This book is one of my favourite books of all time. Potentially my favourite book ever. So this is sort of gothic literary fiction. It kind of borders on horror sometimes, but it's not like a scary book. So the book follows a young plantation owner named Louis, who becomes incredibly depressed after his brother's untimely death, and he ends up being bitten by a vampire. It's really hard to like put into words exactly what the story is about, but it's like an exploration of faith and identity and belonging, and it's very, very gothic. And I first read this when I was 16, so I think I read it at like the perfect time in my life, and it just resonated with me so much, and I love this book so much. So I know it is kind of like one of the classic vampire novels, but it's also basically my favourite, and I love it. And if you haven't read this and you like vampires, I would highly recommend. Question 2 is Coven, your favourite vampire character, and also a character that you think would be cool as a vampire. So again, with Anne Rice, I don't know if it's cliche to say, but I think my favourite vampire is Lestat. He's a bit... I don't think I'd like him as a person, but like as a character to read about on the page, he's very entertaining. And I could have said Louis, but Louis is a bit too depressing, so I'm gonna go with kind of the cliche answer of Lestat. Very sorry. And for a character that I think would be good as a vampire, my mind kept going back to Luc de Casaril from Lois McMaster Bujold's The Curse of Chalion, which is a fantasy novel that I read earlier this year. And the main character is so shockingly similar to one of my own original characters, and the only difference being that my character is sometimes a vampire. So I feel like it would be really interesting, because I basically feel like they would be the same character. But if you want like an actual answer, I feel like there are a lot of characters that, like, any character can be improved by making them a vampire, like, prove me wrong. But I think it might be interesting for somebody like Mia Colville, or just anybody from the Nevernight universe to like be a vampire, because I mean Mia already fits the aesthetic pretty well, I feel. And she already has like her shadow powers, but like she lives in a world with 3 suns, and if we're going with a kind of vampire that burns in sunlight, that would make for a really interesting story. It's like, you think she suffers in the sun now? Make her a vampire, then see what happens. Question 3 is Thrall, your favourite dark, sexy or gothic book fit for any vampire? And not to give it away with the last question, but I am going to go for the Nevernight Chronicle by J. Kristoff. I feel like these books are deliciously dark, very gothic, kind of metal at times as well, but like, they follow a young girl with the power to control shadows and darkness, hell-bent on revenge, trying to become an assassin to avenge her family. Like, it's gothic as hell. There's a lot about like gods and religion as well, and I feel like it's a perfect gothic fantasy novel, and I feel like any vampire would be happy to read it. Question 4 is Sanguine, a book, story or series that sustains you much in the way that blood sustains a vampire. I know I wrote these questions, but this one actually gave me a really hard time. My answer probably would have been the Nevernight Chronicles, but they just finished, so they can no longer sustain me. So I think I'm actually going to go with Leigh Bardugo's Grisha series, like all of the various series within that universe. I know that I thought King of Scars was kind of meh, and the original Grisha trilogy was kind of meh, but the Six of Crows duology was like chef's kiss. And I'm pretty sure I will read like anything that she brings out in the Grisha universe. It's just like a really interesting world, and I've read a lot now, so I'm quite invested in like just reading about characters from that universe. So I feel like I'm gonna go with that. Like, I'm already looking forward to the next one, whenever that may be. It's also kind of like a booktube staple, especially for those of us who read fantasy. So yeah, Grishaverse. Question 5 is Ceremony, modern or old school vampires? And I'm gonna go with old school vampires. As much as I love people doing like new twists on the genre, sometimes I'm not a fan. I feel like there's like creativity, and then sometimes there's like, once you change it too much, it's like, what was the point in even using vampires at all? Because you could have just come up with your own new fantastical paranormal creature. So yeah, I'm gonna go with classic vampires over like modern interpretations. And on that note, question 6 is Rites, sparkle or burn in the sunlight? Burn. Question 7 is Preternatural. If you were in an immortal slumber, what book would wake you from the dead? And for me, this has to be Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. Not only is it a vampire book by one of my favourite authors and a fantasy, I cannot contain my excitement. Like, if I was like asleep in my little vampire coffin and this book came out, I would just be like immediately awakened, son or no son. I am going for that book. I will rise from my grave for J. Kristoff writing vampires. You cannot stop me. I feel like I should calm down. Question 8 is Slayer, a book that you would drive a stake into. I feel like the obvious answer to say here is The Cursed Child. I do not acknowledge that book as canon, like no matter what anybody says. I do not. It does not need to exist. But if I'm going to be a bit more original, I might also go with The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco, which is possibly the worst book I've read in many years. It was appalling. It was horrible, and I wish I could end its life. I wish I could just drive a stake through that book and forget that it ever happened. I'm really sorry to anyone who liked it, but I thought it was just the most boring thing I've ever read. So yeah, sorry about that. Question 9 is Painted Faces, a book with a beautiful cover that turned out to be disappointing. And I am going to go with Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. Like, this is the special edition Owl Crate cover, and like, it's so pretty. It's so beautiful, it looks so gothic, and it was so bland and disappointing, and I have a whole rant review up in this top corner if you want to go watch that. It's like 40 minutes long because like, I had a lot to say. This book was so disappointing. I was extremely excited for this. Like, I have 2 copies of this book. It did not live up to the hype. It was kind of a rip-off of like the Grisha stuff, and it just wasn't really very gothic at all. It was just kind of like, I don't know, like cliche, like almost meme level, like internet goth stuff. It was bad. It was really bad. And it's so annoying because like, it's so pretty, like look at it. This book does not deserve to look so good. Question 10 is Sadly Mortal, a book you used to love but that has not aged well. I'm gonna have to say Aragon by Christopher Paolini. This was one of my favourite books as a child, and like, I still love it. I still have like this nice like nostalgic feeling for this book, and I mean, I haven't reread it in a while, but like, I have good memories of this book and I still count it as like one of my childhood favourites. But I mean, it is literally just Star Wars with dragons and a whole bunch of words ripped directly from the Lord of the Rings. So there's that. And finally, question 11 is Resurrection, a book or a series that you wish you could revive and bring back from the dead. So this one also gave me a hard time, and I had to think about this because, again, I don't really want to say Nevernight because I'm satisfied that that series has ended, and like, I wouldn't want to resurrect it. And I feel the same for like a lot of the series that I have read. It's like, I'm satisfied with the way that they ended. So like, potentially controversial answer, I think maybe I'm gonna say Harry Potter, but like, not the Golden Trio. You know, I want what I think many people want. I don't want like more plays, I don't want more films, I want more books. And I don't want like more of the Golden Trio or any of this like Fantastic Beasts crap. I don't want anything in the future. Do you know what I want? And I think it's what a lot of people want, a goddamn Marauders prequel. Why don't we have this yet? You know, J.K. Rowling, incredibly famous author, she's a writer, and I'm just like, what have you published lately? I mean, I know she writes some books under like a different name, which are like adult books, but like, I know you're set for life and you never need to write again because like, you're super rich, but please write some more books that I can read and love that are like either Harry Potter books or like something new, but like, please, I would love some sort of like prequel story. I'm so tired of like all the gimmicky spin-off stuff that we're getting, and it's really bad. And I'm like, look, we already kind of know most of the story about the Marauders, but people really like the prequel stuff. And like, I would not be mad if she decided to write like a small, you know, series of books that sort of cover the start and maybe like the lead up to like the first of the Harry Potter books. Like, I wouldn't be mad. There's like a lot that went down that we never really got to see, and like, I want to see it. I think at this point it's the only thing that J.K. Rowling could release that I would be even mildly interested in. So yeah, I feel like this is kind of the only answer I could really think of for my own question. So that was it. That was my, I think, original tag. I mean, I don't know how many other people care about vampires or who like to do like spooky tags, because like, are tags even still a thing on BookTube? Do we still do them? I mean, I'm still doing them, but like, I think you can tell by my appearance that like, the fashions of the day are not my concern. But if anyone does want to do this tag, I would like love to see other people's answers, especially like, I just want to hear other people like talk about vampires and their love for vampires, because like, I love vampires so much, and like, I need other vampire loving friends. So if you do this tag, like, please let me know. Feel free to like leave a comment or a link. And I hope you thought this video was fun. I hope you guys are having a wonderful October in the lead up to Halloween, whether or not you enjoy the spooky season. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye!